All right, let's jump right into business today. It's Monday morning here on the Morning Brew, and Dan Mayfield is joining us here from Albuquerque Business First.
Yep.
Good to see you, Dan.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. Awesome.
Happy Monday.
Yeah, no doubt.
We love to
Early
see
on a
you
Monday. Well, we had some big news last week.
Yeah.
Tesla announced that those guys were going to be building their giant gigafactory in Nevada. And everybody here took it, I think, pretty hard. We thought we were actually in the running for this thing. And all of a sudden, it just took off in Nevada. We couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Somehow there's others.
Is that your car, Dan?
Don't I wish? That's actually my friend Andy Lim, one of the handful of guys in Albuquerque who owns a Tesla. That one's the 85 kilowatt version, which is a 420 horsepower car.
Wow.
It's
Nice.
fast.
I've seen it.
Awesome.
I think I've seen his car. There's a blue one, a dark blue one in town too.
Yeah, they're beautiful, amazing
Yeah, they
cars.
really are. It catches your eye.
They do. And it would have been wonderful to see the battery packs for those things being built here, you know. But nope, Nevada got it. It turns out that they were, what Elon Musk said later was they were a can-do state, and they basically forced the issue the whole way. And you know, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California were just saying, hey, we're here. You know, we will do everything we can. There's Elon Musk. There's his photo back here.
Uh-huh.
And we were all just saying, we'll do whatever we can. And the guys in Nevada just said, oh, you know what? Literally, next day air sent him a building permit and said, here's a site.
Exactly.
That's great.
That's getting it together.
That's getting it together.
That's a good lesson for us.
Absolutely, you know.
We're not going to win this by being land of mañana.
No,
We're
not
not
at all.
going to get there.
And you're not the first person to say that
It's
to me about
horrible.
this. Yeah. And, you know, I think a lot of state government is taking a lot of flack now. Of course, it is political season, and
Yeah.
people from both sides of the aisle are saying
Pointing
that.
fingers and
Oh, absolutely.
doing
You know,
all that stuff.
Democrats are saying the governor didn't do enough. You know, Democrats are saying, well, the governor of Texas flew to California and drove a
Yes.
Tesla. The governor in Arizona had a special session just to pass a bill that would have allowed them to sell the car there. And the governor in Nevada did crazy stuff, like just prepping a site, you know, just out of the blue. Like, here's 1,000 acres for you. Go.
Yeah, and sent them the building permit.
Sent them the building permit. Next day air. Done.
Wow.
Yeah.
And our governor said, well, maybe we'll have a special session. Maybe at some point.
Right.
Everything's on the
Thanks
table.
so much, Susanna.
Right.
Thank
And that's one side of it. And the other side is, well, you know, we don't know what happened behind the scenes. We don't know what exactly the
So
negotiations were.
Were we really in it?
You know, I do believe the state officials and the local officials, Gary Tonjes from Albuquerque
Yeah.
Economic Development, assures me that we really were.
Okay.
And these guys say we really were in it. They just couldn't talk about it. But they were actually writing proposals. They had guys visit. It was a big deal. And we were as in it as any of the other states that
Okay.
were in it. And that is one of those things that I was wondering about, too. You know, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
Right? You know, like everybody else made such a big deal of it, and we stayed a little bit quieter than the other states. But no, they tell me unequivocally that Tesla folks really were looking at New Mexico, and they were really interested in coming here.
So, Dan, do you remember when there was some dialogue about them having two sites?
Yeah.
Is that still on the table or no?
Not really. It seems like all of the talk of two sites is just falling apart because they basically want to get this thing up and running as soon as possible, and Nevada just did it.
Yeah.
Just done. You know, unless that site falls apart and something catastrophic happens there, it looks like that's just it.
From what I'm hearing about this thing too, proximity won.
Yes.
And they had
Yep.
a lot of good reasons to use the Reno, Nevada area because of proximity to their Fremont, California plant.
Yep.
Lithium is mined right there.
Yep, and that's
Oh,
with the
man.
batteries, the lithium-ion batteries. Then you
Yeah.
know, although the plant, ironically, is actually going to be using Canadian lithium.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was what Elon Musk said in a shareholder meeting a while back. But the bigger thing was rail, and they put it right on a rail line in Reno that goes directly in. It's been there for several years. It's been this thing that Nevada's been working on, and Nevada and BNSF together have been working on it. And you know, if you can put your plant right on a rail line without having to build a rail spur,
Yeah.
done. You know.
Yes.
Somebody said miles cost money, and we're 1,000 miles from their factory and 1,000 miles from any lithium supply and all that.
Yep.
And,
worse,
that doesn't help.
Yeah, and more than that is a lot of these batteries though they are making them for cars, they are very similar to the batteries you have in your laptop computer. and their partner in this is Panasonic, and their headquarters is in Japan, and they're going to be sending a lot of batteries back and forth between Japan and here. So, I mean, if you have to send them to the port in LA, we're again that much further than Reno. And really, that's what it came down to. You know, nobody would, you know, General Motors doesn't look to put a automotive plant in, or an engine factory in Texas and a body factory in Detroit. You know, they want it all as close as they can get it. And just because it's Tesla, people think they're going to do something entirely different, but they're not really breaking the automotive industry mold. You know, building everything
what do you think the takeaway is for state officials?
I think their takeaway is right now. What's very interesting. Everybody said that for the first time in at least recent memory, they've all worked together. They've all called each other. They've all talked to each other. They've all said, let's get all our resources together. Yeah. And the takeaway is that they didn't know they could do that before. Or if they did, they didn't exploit that. And that's an interesting thing. And this is what Gary Saunders and I were talking about today, and I thought it was really interesting. Other big projects come, and one local economic development agency or another will run it down and do all their things.
Right.
But you know, here in Albuquerque, we have the city, we have the county, we have the merge cog, the Middle River and Council of Governments. We have the state. We have the USDA. You can keep. There's like 27 different economic development agencies just in Albuquerque working on this, and all of them got together, and they all said, "Well, we're, you know, what are the sites? What can we do?" UNM was even in on this at some point with Mesa del Sol stuff. I mean, it was huge, and all of these folks had not ever really sat in the same room before. And I think it would have been, I would love to have been a fly on that wall in that room when they were meeting.
Sure.
But I'm surprised you weren't.
Right? But these guys never really did that level of collaboration, like that before. And I think that will help us going forward, because now they know, well, hey, you guys were able to do this for Tesla. Can you do it for whatever else?
Yeah, I think this would have been a grand slam, not just a home run. But now we can hit some home runs with some smaller companies. And I think we can.
And there are several large companies on the line right now. And we've seen a lot more attention because of this. Other companies that never would have considered New Mexico before for manufacturing are now looking at New Mexico saying, well, if Tesla was looking at them, maybe they were.
It definitely puts us on the radar.
It did. So hopefully we'll capitalize on that, you know, if we can. So,
the whole corporate tax thing too came up, and
you know, I'm a little disappointed in that in some ways, and this is just me thinking out loud here. But,
sure.
You know, 18 months ago, the governor and the legislature worked really hard to kind of at the last second pass this thing that was it passed a single sales factor, which is it's a tax benefit for manufacturers, and they also lowered the corporate income tax rate. And at the time, we said this is going to make it rain.
Yeah.
Nothing. I haven't really seen anything from it. You know, we got Canon, but they're not a manufacturer. You know, and it's a couple of hundred call center jobs, great jobs, but not the manufacturing jobs we need to diversify the state's economy. And you know, when they said this kind of tax thing would help diversify our economy, I've been looking for it and really haven't seen it. You know, we got a company that makes some wire in Santa Teresa down the border. CN Wire down there, but that's mired in weird controversy now because there's a competitor across the street that does the same thing. You know, do you want to use state incentives to recruit somebody that already does something you have in your economy, or do you want to use your state incentives to recruit somebody new? I don't know. And so I was really thinking that these state tax incentives would make a bigger difference, and so far we haven't seen it. You know, not in the metro area here. You know, it was supposed to be. That single sales factor bill was originally called the Save Intel bill. And what did we see but 400 layoffs at Intel?
Right.
So I don't know that, you know, though it may be a big help for manufacturers and these kinds of businesses, right now they're not really marketing it maybe the right way, as the state isn't getting the word out there that we have these advantages for manufacturers that we could be potentially courting. You know,
Well,
I really
let's
thought
hope
that
there's someone
would be
out
big.
there that's, you know, tuning into your
Let's
advice.
hope, absolutely, let's
Word.
hope, because, you know, if we do have some manufacturers that are watching us today, I mean, they should be taking advantage of the new single sales factor, and what it means is, basically you tax your people, your property, and your sales. And under single sales factor, we only now tax your sales, and so that's huge. You're not taxing the building, you're not taxing the people, and that allows you to grow. And you grow your sales, which everybody's going to do hopefully anyway. Then the state benefits in the long run from that. But we just get the word out there that we have this advantage.
Excellent.
One more, just a quick question on the Tesla thing. The news dropped last week. Was anybody expecting it?
Yes, everybody was. We all kind of had heard it.
Knew it was coming.
For weeks, because BNSF folks had pretty much let it slip that something was going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey, Dan,
Excellent
always fun to
reporting.
talk to you.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you. Dan Mayfield from Albuquerque Business First. There's more Morning Brew right after this.